Hi, I'm Eric. I'm still a little tired this morning, but I did get a very good night's sleep last night. I slept like a combination between a baby, a dog, a rock, and a log. I also I'm very pleased this morning to be able to tell you a story about yesterday. A story so exciting that you are going to be kept awake for the next 3 weeks by how exciting this story is. Yesterday, Rachel and I went into town. Oh, that's not the exciting part of the story. Oh, sure. That part of the story is pretty exciting. Is that Winston's mom? I'm pulling up the streamaroo here on the old interwebs where we will see the chat a little bit better. Yes, the question of babies, dogs, rocks, and logs is marry, fuck, kill, throw. Goes to marry logs, throw babies, kill rocks, and fuck dogs. How was town? Well, town was largely uneventful. We went into town, we got lunch at the Mexican restaurant. And then we did a little light grocery shopping. And we came back home. But here's where the exciting part of the story begins. On the way home, we drove past a truck with I don't know what you call it, some kind of a trailer. It's like a livestock trailer. And it had a couple of cows in it. In the livestock trailer. And I was suddenly reminded of this song from my teenage years that I remembered. The lyrics to which say, animal husbandry don't happen in the city. So I was like, what is that song? I asked Rachel to Google it on her phone, try to figure out what song it was. A diamond dildo will do for that, for fucking rocks. Well, you could fuck log if you prefer Western song. You can just use a lathe to make a smooth wooden man rod. Anyway, and I said, okay, well, there's only one person I can call who knows the answer to this question. It's time for me to call my friend Dave Porter, my oldest friend. I have known him since I was 3 years old. So I've known him. He's been my friend for this, coming up this year, it'll be 50 years I've been friends with this guy. I met him when I was 3 years old. He lived 2 doors down from me. I remember meeting him. I remember the day we moved into that house and meeting him. And so even though I hadn't talked to him since the wedding, I just called his ass. I was like, telephone, call Dave Porter. And yeah, he's my oldest friend. I've known him longer than I've known anybody else, except for my dead parents. Interestingly, he's 4 years older than me. He's 56. But even though I was 3 and he was 7, we hit it off right away. I've been trying to contact him, but he's a bit of a tougher nut to crack, you know. Corey knows that I don't approve of his relationship because he's being abused and has been for decades. It's basically destroyed his life. And I want to save him, but I can't save him. Meanwhile, Dave Porter has a wonderful life. Even though he recently got fired from FedEx, he made a couple of mistakes. And got fired. He didn't seem to be too distressed about it. His wife, or very long time girlfriend, they're not actually married, but she's the primary breadwinner. Yes. Yes, Dave will be the Christmas party. Natalie won't be able to make it, but Dave will be there. Yes. I like Natalie. Natalie's great. Natalie is, from what I can tell, an ISFP. And ISFJ, ISFP. Not a terrible relationship. That would be great, Winston's mom. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it does become a yearly thing. I'm hoping Corey can make it up for the Christmas party, but I know that until I let Dave, Cameron, Ruben, Acacia, a couple other people I can't think of at the moment. I'm making it up here. Well, we're thinking about yeah, you should swing by Portland and get Lou. That'd be great. Oh, I've got some poop that seems to be slowly making its way down to the bottom of the butthole. Hello, Boba Fett. Are you traveling today? If so, you have my sympathy. Nothing sucks quite as much as traveling. Except, like genocide or something. I guess genocide's worse than traveling. Well, I believe I hear maybe a very beautiful lady descending the stairs. Good morning, my precious angel. I love you too. Oh, looks like you've got some cat washing to do. Even though I don't know how he could still be hungry. I already watched him eat first thing in the morning. Every morning, I hear the sound of angel footsteps, which is like a church organ walking down the stairs. That's the sound that plays as Rachel walks down the stairs. And then, as she enters the downstairs, the whole house becomes illuminated with the light from her halo. Not to mention the fact that she, like all angels, smells like cinnamon rolls. Can I give you a primer on modus ponens? Sure. Modus ponens is one of two primary conditionality rules of inference, the other one being modus tollens. Modus ponens just says, if A, then B, A, therefore B. Modus tollens just says, if A, then B, not B, therefore not A. So each of them requires you to have two statements. One, a conditional, and then two, either the antecedent to the conditional, which will give you the consequent, or the negation of the consequent, which will give you the negation of the antecedent. The tricky thing about rules of inference and replacement is really, in some sense, the rules of inference are so obvious and straightforward, it's hard to believe that they count as anything. Like, if A, then B. If I have an apple, then I have an orange. I have an apple. Obviously, therefore, then I have an orange. That's modus tollens. I mean, modus ponens is just that. Pretty much all the rules of inference are like that. It's like, you have a meow, what can you infer? A couple of them are, you have a meow, and you have a meow, what can you infer? But most of them are two things. Like disjunctive syllogism. You have an or connecting two statements. I have to poop or I have to pee. And then you have the negation of one of those two statements. I don't have to pee. Therefore, the other half of the or must be true. And mechanically, the thing to remember is that rules of inference differ from rules of replacement because you can only do rules of inference on things that have all of the components to it. So like there's a rule of inference called constructive dilemma. But in order to use it, you have to have if P then Q, or some equivalent to that, if R then S, or some equivalent to that, and then P or R, in which case you can get Q or S. We take that same set of statements, and you can do various things with rules of replacement on the components within the statements. And that's one to grow on. Yeah, so like a rule of replacement. If I have if P then Q, then I can replace that with the material implication of if P then Q, which is not Q or P. I can do that with any conditional statement in any larger statement or set of statements without doing anything else. I can just replace it. Just straight up take out the conditional and put back in its place a disjunction. The disjunction is materially implied by the conditional. Thanks for asking me logic questions. It was always one of my very favorite things to teach was conditional logic. Because it's like, I'm not really good at math, but I'd rather be, I'm so bad at math in some ways that the other day, I think I subtracted like 30 from 40 and came up with 20. That math isn't right, Eric. But the beautiful thing about logic, you can go about proving something in slightly different ways, but your answer is always either correct or incorrect. There are more than one correct way to prove a given logic question, but the point is, each attempted proof is always either correct or incorrect. It's like grammar in that regard. That's why I like teaching grammar too. You can actually teach it. You can assess at the beginning how much they know. You can teach the material. You can assess at the end if they've got it down or not. Unlike stupid shit like writing, which you just cannot teach. It's a language all its own, and anyone who can speak this language can own anyone, I believe. Well, people with TI high up will naturally get, like, if you say P or Q and not Q, what can we infer? They're gonna say, well, P, obviously. Duh. But people who aren't TI super high up will go, I don't know. But the thing is, of course, I normally don't test TI with P's and Q's and symbolized statements and stuff. I usually test it with real language. Because the thing is, the first thing I teach when I teach logic is actually how to represent statements in symbolic logic terms. I have cheese and Mary has apples is P and Q. I have cheese, but Mary has apples. P and Q. Mary has cheese while I have apples. Q and P. There's lots of different ways you can phrase something that's the same thing, logically. And getting people to correctly represent statements with nested conditionals is a bit of a challenge. So, if we were to represent what Winston's mom said right there, if you have cheese and Mary has apples, you have the beginnings of a feast. Now find someone who has no nuts and sparkling juices. That will be represented if P and Q, then R. And that's it. Because the last sentence is a command, and commands don't get represented in symbolic language, in symbolic logic. Yeah, and there'd be parentheses around the P and Q. Yeah, you have one statement there that has it has a nested conditional. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, it has a conjunction is the antecedent of the conditional. Commands don't count as statements. Neither do questions. Questions and commands have no place in symbolic logic. After all, they aren't reasons. It's like meter and rhyme. I just don't get those easily. I could do it with time and a piece of paper and a pencil. Yeah, you could do it if you played around with metered verse all the time. Like, there was a stretch of my life where when I first learned about metered verse, when I was walking around trying to talk in metered verse all the time. Since first I learned of metered verse, I've started talking worse and worse. All my words just seem to flow and rhyme as well, so I don't know if this is wise or poorly thought. After all, if I get caught by bullies, surely I'll be beat, because nothing could be much less neat than talking pure and metered verse. Indeed, I'll say again, the worst. So I can do it. I can talk continually in metered verse and probably get all the feet of the thing I'm saying correct. I can still do it. But, when I first learned about it, I wasn't able to do it that easily. I had to think about it some and stuff. It's such a deprecated skill. It's like, what is this? The 1600s? It's like learning to code on the Apple IIe. Probably at this point a waste of time. But I like it. It's fun. I think metered verse is fun. And metered verse was another thing I didn't mind teaching. It was one of the only forms of writing I didn't mind teaching. Because I was just trying to get them to get the meter right. I'd write a bunch of words of varying syllable lengths on the board. We'd accent mark them all. And then I'd say, your job is just to assemble these so the accent patterns go correctly. So it might be like, elephants are stomping all my cabbage. Yeah. Like, elephants are stomping on my cabbage. That's trochaic pentameter. That's the metered form of that statement, or that sentence, is trochaic pentameter. It's got 5 accents, but the accents are on the odd numbered beats, not the even numbered. Normally, English is iambic. So you'll hear people say naturally occurring sentences in like iambic pentameter if you're listening for them. For example, you're so retarded when it comes to clothes. The person who I learned metered verse from told a funny story in class where he the grave mind frequently speaks in rhyming trochaic heptameter. I don't know who Gravemind is. And there's no such thing as heptameter. You've got heptameter is just two lines of tremeter smushed together. That's why there's nothing over 5, because 6 is just two lines of 3. The Gravemind resembles a very large Venus flytrap. The Gravemind is also somebody who apparently doesn't understand metered verse, because there is no heptameter. Metered verse works like numerology. You have to reduce it down. I mean, even if you were to do heptameter, it would be like two unrhyming lines of 3, and then two rhyming lines of 3. So if you're trying to make it a 12 syllable lines with 6 accents, then the only difference between trimeter is that you can have each line rhyme, presumably, but it still plays out like 2 lines of trimeter. Anyway, I don't want to get into a fight with the Gravemind over metered verse. After all, Gravemind is a giant Venus flytrap, and probably from its perspective, I'm just a large fly. A lot of early morning teacher. Well, Winston's mom, there are certain things I can talk about at great length that other people find very dull. One of them is metered verse. One of them is grammar. One of them is symbolic logic. But at least I know that most of my thoughts about grammar are too boring to even say out loud. And we were driving back from LA. Riding in silence for some portion of the trip, I was thinking hard about where, when you have an intensive or reflexive personal pronoun, myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, themselves, what usage makes it intensive and what usage makes it reflexive? And I could not figure it out. I still haven't figured it out. But I did something very nice for Rachel. I did not talk about what I was thinking about. Because even I know that determining which usages of the 5th class of personal pronouns comprise intensive and which usages comprise reflexive is not a subject anybody wants to talk about. It's the sort of thing I think about for some reason. I guess just because I used to be an English teacher and I know grammar very well. Unlike most even English teachers, I know grammar much better than most English teachers because I learned grammar the old fashioned way with sentence diagramming. Of course, I didn't learn it till I was an adult, but once I did learn it, then I understood it. The fifth class of personal pronouns. Yeah, well, there's a personal pronoun song I wrote, Winston's Bomb to help everybody remember the personal pronouns. Goes like this. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. These are subject pronouns that I and you and she say. He, no, me, you, him, her, it, us, you, them. These objective pronouns are for you and me and her and him. My, your, his, her, it's, our, your, their. These possessive adjectives are mine and yours and hers to share. Mine, yours, his, hers, it's, ours, yours, theirs. These possessive pronouns are mine and yours and his to share. Then myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, themselves. These are intensive and reflexive. And that completes the 5 classes of personal pronouns, or something like that. That was the song that I taught the kids to sing. How would you abstract the concept of life, considering it as a tree, into its most salient components that are relevant and meaningful for human attention and consciousness? Well, I'd abstract the concept of life regarding the tree as, I mean, look, I don't generally include calculations of non humans in my understanding of cosmology. So, in other words, as kind of a shorthand, I presume that I operate under the assumption that observation, the kind of observation upon which all reality supervenes, is human observation. Now, a that's an irrational number I'm using to get from real calculations to real calculations with this irrational number in between. That's not accurate. Non-humans can observe as well. But I have no way of making any determination about the impact of non-human observation. So I don't know what to say about that. I will say this. I think that observation is the heretofore unquantified, untargeted, inadequately explained force in the universe. So, the thing is, the end part of your question is the only part that matters. Your question itself is always going to be an abstract kind of human attention. And it's asking for some sort of modeling mechanics explanation that that will render a cosmological constant like observation into into uh, into a one of multiple variables in a larger mechanical understanding. But that notion itself is false because observation precedes every other reality, and every other reality supervenes upon observation. That's the best answer I can give you on that question. Once again, Money knocks it out of the park with his sophisticated questions. That's why they call him Money. He's like the diver who does the dive with the most complicated difficulty level and still doesn't splash when he hits the water. I really enjoyed my joke the other day. I wonder if this is the joke that got that one stream age restricted. I said, the thing I don't like about diving is how much can you watch Chinese people not making a splash? Well, it's a little early for a cutlet put. It's still dark outside. Would a heuristic be what can we talk about and what we observe? I don't even think that's a heuristic. It's like whatever our personal experience might be, it has hard boundaries until and unless it's communicable. So, well, there are experiences that we don't communicate about. To the extent that they're totally incommunicable, then we're probably not capable of even making note of them. Yeah, well, you need glasses, Boba Fett. If you have your glasses on, it's not so bad. It's like the most poetic answer to the question, why can't we remember our birth, our first couple of months of life or whatever, is that we don't have any language. And language allows experience to be rendered into a communicable form. Communicability is what allows us to remember things. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I like that. Oh, I know. It's insane, Boba Fett. Yours and mine is not the generation of typing on tiny little screens with our big fat fingers, you know? My daughter, she can type a novel with her two thumbs in like 5 seconds. But a couple old folk like you and me, Boba Fett, that's beyond us. You know, right now, if this were a MMORPG, I'd have this one skill that I worked on for a long time, like, you know, kicking or something. Except for me, it's live streaming. I've got I've got all of the skills of this particular thing maxed out as much as possible in terms of, I guess, the process of doing it. But but there's no further gains to be had from working on this particular thing anymore. Well, that's the TE frame of even MMORPGs. Because by choosing to live stream today, instead of, I don't know, make a video that explains something or whatever, I'm just guaranteeing that whatever words I say are like stuck in this frame, limited in what they can accomplish. That comes with being SE 8th, I guess. I'm not that focused on concrete impacts. I'm kind of trapped in this make-believe world in which if I've said it and it's published it, then it's on the flow. Cozy versus wild. I like cozy. I like things that are cozy. I read kind of an interesting article about Only Murders in the Building, how it's cozy and what it says about us that we find murder cozy. And how it's like, it's one of our collective ways of dealing with death, murder mysteries, where somebody's died, but the impacts of that death on the people who care about that person are not the subject of the story, right? Murder mysteries are cozy because they make the death irrelevant. The death is the beginning of a story, not the end of a story. I thought that was a fascinating observation in that article I read. It was an article about coziness and murder. But I'm a very sensitive guy, emotionally. Like, I worry about this horse that lives near our house. It's obviously well cared for. But I worry that it's lonely. And it hurts my heart so much. It makes me want to cry. It's like, that's the sort of stuff I just want to excise from my life. Any thoughts about suffering? I don't want to trespass, It's like I pulled over one the other day to make a little video about the horse. And we walked kind of near its corral, but still on the street, not on their property. And the horse ran right up to like say hi to us, but I couldn't go right over next to it because I would have had to walk like a few feet onto this guy's land. I didn't want to do that, mess with his horse, and who knows what he thinks about that. But he's in a nice corral. Obviously, I must put him out there in the morning and come get him in the afternoon. Probably they ride him sometimes. There aren't any signs even that say no trespassing. It's just I'm very careful about that around here. I could walk right up to the side of it and maybe try to pet the horse, but I also don't want to be responsible for this horse's emotional well-being. So it's like these things cause me a great deal of pain. This horse is fine. It's well cared for, obviously. It's always got a nice, clean corral. Um, there's what appears to be a chicken coop near it. Not yet, but we will do that. Well, we invited Les, but we haven't invited the neighbors next door. And the thing is, Rachel is really into the idea. Yeah, please don't tell me a sad story. Yeah. I'm sorry I shared the story about the horse, but I want to reassure everybody it is very well cared for horse. Um, anyway, I don't like to think about those kind of things. Rachel's really into the idea of caroling. I mentioned it as a possibility one day, and she seized upon it. But we're a little bit worried about the specifics of how to go about doing that. I was thinking maybe we could stop by the few houses that we're planning to hit before we go caroling and say, "Hey, we're going caroling tonight. Would you mind if we stop by your house?" Um, set it up like that. I have a few houses in mind. Um, there's the people who put together the community yard sale with the little kids. The husband, he works in Oakland, and the wife, she says she's a happily married single mother. Because he's like gone 4 or 5 days out of the week to Oakland, but they live way up here. So he's got a 3-hour drive to get to work, and then he stays there all week. We could invite those people, or we could ask them if we could carol at their house. One thing I've begun thinking about now is the following possibility. Are Ruben and Acacia going to get here on December 9th? Or, I don't know, December 13th? Of course, for Acacia, it's only a 5-hour drive. I'm not so worried about Ruben successfully making the voyage. So, no, we go caroling on December 9th. It's scheduled for an activity during the party. Our current plan is to try to hit 2 houses, maybe 3 houses, just a brief foray into caroling. And we just sang like 3 songs at each house. maybe, and I'll print out the lyrics and stuff to them. We could sing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." We could sing "Sleigh Bell." Well, Winston's mom, we cheated. Okay, we cheated. We are gonna have to do a little bit of Christmas decorating, but we actually hired somebody to come do our Christmas decorations on December 8th. Already paid for it all. The same lady who did our wedding. Well, she did a great job with the wedding. We were thrilled with her decorations. And so we believe she's going to do an equally great job with the Christmas decorations. In fact, we pared down from our initial thing to get it at where I wanted it budget wise, not super hugely expensive. We managed to cut, you know, $500 or $600 off the price. I'm tempted now that we've already paid for it all to go back to her and say, you know what? Here's the extra $600. Do the other stuff we talked about too. Because we are going to be on the Seroptimist home tour on December 9th. December 9th is going to be a busy day for us. We are going to be here all day because people buy tickets from the Seroptimist Society to go on this home tour to see people's houses decorated for Christmas and shit, And we signed up for it. So we want the house to look as nice as possible. We're going to have to get some snacks and stuff for people who come by to see the house. They're going to walk all around inside of it and everything. It's not going to be as decorated inside as it is outside, but yes, we do have a giant coffee urn, Winston's mom. And in fact, we are going to use that. And I know that this might be crazy, but I am seriously considering, instead of buying cookies and stuff, I'm seriously considering baking cookies myself. Baking one small cookie sheet worth of cookies at a time. That way, whenever anybody comes in the house, it smells like fresh baked cookies. What do you think about that idea? I think that's a good idea. Because everybody loves the smell of fresh baked cookies. I could, yeah. I hadn't even thought about that, Winston. Well, I could buy pre-made cookie dough. That would save a lot of time and energy. But making chocolate chip cookie dough is not that hard. I've done that plenty of times before. It's like the easiest thing you can bake is like Toll House chocolate chip cookies. They're not difficult to make. And I don't want my cookies to come out as perfect circles. And therefore, it's obvious that you bought pre-made cookie dough. I want my cookies to come out looking like naturally occurring cookies. Because there's nothing naturally occurring about a perfect circle cookie. You know, even the moon's only a circle once a month. So I'll probably make my own cookie dough if we're going to do that. So, yeah, that's our kind of number one looming thing we've got going on is upcoming December 9th. I'm glad I called Dave yesterday. It was confirmed that he was coming. You know, I don't expect it to be a huge turnout, but that's fine. It's totally fine. Best cookies I ever had were at a dude ranch in Cody, Wyoming. Fresh off a horse, the cook had fresh cookies waiting for us. I did. I spoke to Cameron just the other day. He's coming. Um, so I'm excited about that. He'll probably arrive a couple days early, you know. Others are welcome to do so also, if they wish. Get here a few days early. Chillax. Although, the thing is, probably we'd we'd need people out of the house during the day on the 9th, by and large. But, you know, if people were to be around some, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But it's going to be fairly crowded in here. It's not like it's a huge house. It's, we get a group of like 10 people in here, you know, that's, yeah, people who come early, but who we need to have out of the house during the day on the 9th could go do whatever they want, obviously, you know. If they want to take out the little wilderness car, if the roads are passable, then they're welcome to take the little wilderness car out and go out for a wonderful winter's day in the forest. And I will tell you, it is wonderfully wintry and mountainy outside. It has a lot of SI for me because I spent so much time in Mammoth as a kid. Because, you know, my parents had a condo up there. And just being outside right now, it's just everything about outside says mountains. The smell, the temperature, it's crazy. And we discovered just yesterday, the day before, there's a little lake right on the other side of those houses on Heights Cove. I don't know whose lake it is, if we're allowed to access it or what, but there's a lake like within easy walking distance of here. that I did not know existed until just a couple of days ago. When I was like looking at all these houses along Heights Cove because there's an empty lot for sale down there. And also on that street down there, at the end of the street, somebody's constructing two little houses. I was thinking we might conceivably buy that empty lot. I don't know how much it is for the empty lot. And put up one of those little houses there and then sell it. Like be a real estate developer or whatever. I'd have to crunch the numbers and see if there's profit sufficient to be had after taxes, meow, meow, meow. Maybe something I'd even want to chat with Winston's mom about. She seems wise about such things. No, I don't like to kayak. I've never kayaked before, I don't think. Maybe one time. Ocean kayak one time, I believe. But I do like to potentially walk over to a lake. I like to fish. But the thing is, I'm not sure if that's somebody's private lake or what. Meow, do you want me to? It's actually pronounced or spelled Heights Cove. Hites apostrophe S. Heights. And the thing is, the road down there, Heights Cove Road, is not Heights Cove. It leads to Heights Cove, which is quite some distance back in the woods. I've never been to Heights Cove. Every time we've tried to go over there, the road's been blocked by a tree. But I want to go to Crow's Foot. So, I need to spend some time looking at the dirt road / trail map around here. You think if an ESTP and an ISTP argue, then the ISTP wins? Well, since they're both negating primarily, yeah, yeah, weed's kind of a I think a bit of a tricky business to get into. Currently, Mariposa County doesn't have any weed stores. So in that regard, you know, if you could get the county to approve that, you'd do very well, I'm sure. Of course, it'd have to be super white market. You'd have to get it from vendors to get this shit. I mean, it's a great idea, actually. Listen, well, Mariposa County doesn't have a weed store. But I'm sure the reason for that is because they won't approve it. In theory, we'd have an advantage because we already live here. And it's like, this wasn't our plan coming here or anything. We're not like, I mean, you know, if we were to rent that vacant place near the pizza place, but we might run afoul of parking stuff. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. I mean, if we could get that business running up, operational, and profitable, we could be open 7 days a week and actually go there every once in a while, you know. That would be fantastic. We just need to do a lot of TE, business license, etc. stuff, you know. People think they have the power to change stuff. I mean, I don't think people think that, really. I think people by and large are cynical. I think with good cause. I mean, they've not heretofore had me as an option. They still don't, you know. People, not enough people have heard me. I'm not positioned well enough currently to be taken seriously by people and their dumbass heuristics. So I don't put them down someplace. That's why. Otherwise, I will have my glasses for 5 seconds. Then they will be gone. Where? Who knows where I put them? So I have to have a string tied to them. Or else I will lose them. Well, yeah, there are all these loudmouth political fanatics on YT. And there's one real alternative. It's me. All the other people who claim to be nonpartisan or whatever are really just committed to a middle ground that's no more likely to be correct than any other specific thing. I'm a correctist, you know. I don't affiliate with any political ideology, side, group, whatever. I am just correct about everything. Which means if you're using some heuristic to determine whether a person's on the right team or the wrong team, then you're going to agree with me some of the time and disagree with me some of the time, because since you're using a dumb heuristic, you're going to be wrong at least some of the time. And that's why everyone should listen to Eric. But you know what? That's not a good way of selling it to people. You're wrong and thinking about things in a dumb way. You should listen to me. You're not going to move a lot of that product off the shelf, you know? People are not heavily in the market for that. Tune in today for more insults and pedantry from Eric. You won't want to miss it. Any politics I have were from interacting with authority like cops, the jail system, being poor various times, having money, etc. Politics, far as party alignment, aren't relevant in the real world. Well, that's true. It's like you don't find yourself dealing with other Americans according to their political notions. But when we talk about politics, we act as if those people are horrible people that we disagree with, you know? It's true, Hero Lamb, that as a society, we fail to some extent in that justice and financial resources are somewhat linked. And the reason why that's the case is primarily to be laid at the feet of two demons. One of which is criminalizing consensual behavior, and two is plea bargaining. So if we didn't have plea bargaining, we'd have a much more just society. Vastly more just. Plea bargaining unreasonably and unfairly well, I think what Winston's mom was pointing out is that you've had your run-ins with the criminal justice system, and they haven't been, from your own perspective at least, equitable, you know? That's gonna make anybody mad. Um, Question for reflection, says Diana Days. Okay, well, I love reflecting. Do I have to reflect on it, or can I just answer it? Am I proud of how I became? Um, like most people, I'm proud of some things and less proud of others. you know? I'm proud that I've become increasingly kind, concerned for others' feelings, and increasingly a voice for good in the world rather than a divisive voice. I used to be a lot more divisive. I'm proud of those things. I'm proud of some of my previous accomplishments, but because of my relationship with the past, my attentional priorities go regarding that. Um, I don't feel much satisfaction over past accomplishments. It is possible to be proud of yourself for certain things, you know? Like, I can tell you for sure, I felt very proud of myself when I fixed the dryer for a total of $20 in parts myself. I was like, good job, Eric. You did a good job. I was very proud of myself. But in other ways, I'm not so proud of myself. Like, I recognize that right now I'm lying fallow at a time when a third party observer would say you should be planting crops. You're optimally positioned to do meaningful things. But am I proud of myself? Well, I don't understand. It's like you want me to say am I proud of my holistic self? But I don't think that I I just don't think I conceptualize stuff that way. It's like I'm proud of some parts of myself and not so proud of other parts, you know? I feel underproductive. That's a part of myself that I'm not so proud of. Well, I would suggest, Diana Days, that for most people in most circumstances, it's very difficult to be proud of oneself because there's a lot of externality telling you continually there's something wrong with you. And cognitive functions allows us, if we understand it in full, to be more accepting about the fact that our strengths come along with corresponding deficits. That to be who I am necessarily means these other things are weak areas for me. The question isn't so much, are you proud of yourself, as it is, are you ashamed of yourself? Do you have a general sense of contentment that isn't really tied to anything external? Well, I would say I uh, I do, but those things are subjectivities. Uh, I felt pretty content, yesterday after I took a shower, had sex, and then we got in the car, and I was being like, that was a period of time that I can recall recently of notable contentment. But my contentment really links strongly to how and if how enthusiastic I feel about nothing. This morning I woke up feeling pretty cheerful and feeling pretty enthusiastic about nothing, which means like looking forward to getting up, having a cup of coffee, live streaming, whatevs. Whatevs McGevs. When I feel like that, then it doesn't really matter what's going on as long as it's not making demands on me and I can do whatever I feel like, then I'll be pretty happy. Like this morning at some point, I will probably do a couple of chores. Right, whatevs McGevs. And if you're like every other human being, you have some things that you are ashamed of yourself about. I think of certain instances when I participated on the cruel end of childhood cruelties that I still feel a great deal of shame and sorrow about. Chores are hell. Diana Days, you and I can agree on that. Chores. Well, I'll tell you something else. Chores and bong rips don't really mix. Friends don't let friends smoke bong rips before chores. But I have no other even conceivable way of doing chores, so Diana Days, you are making me feel inspired to do a chore. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little early. It's 5:41 in the morning. When it's still dark outside. When it gets light outside, I think I will try to motivate over to the laundry room door. I might want to try to motivate over to the laundry room door and take this stuff. Yes, it says window seal, but it's fine for doors. And then I gotta put this stuff around the door. This is only better, not best. I didn't see that thing when I was looking at them. But let's look at the weather stripping around the door here so you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully I got the right stuff. Or good enough stuff. So here's the existing weather. This stuff, right? And this stuff's fine right here. But if you look down at the bottom, down here, it's all tore up by the cats. So Is this actually the right stuff? Well, it's hard to say for sure. But it looks like it's probably about the right stuff. I just need to get this. I could take this whole thing down from up here, you know, at the top. I'm a little scared to do it because, you know, the existing weather stripping is not good because it's all scratched up, but it's better than no weather stripping. First, clean. What do I think of ENFP INTJ? I think it's the exact same relationship as ENTP INFJ. So I think it's golden. There. You've gotten some pets. We're here to watch you eat. You might think, wow, Eric live streams in the morning, and so we see this cat eat so much, you know, because that's when the cat eats. No. You sample any random live stream, see how many times I watch this cat per 2 hours or whatever eat. That's all day, every day. We watch this cat eat more than 5 times a day for sure. Between the two of us, we might be approaching 10 times a day we watch this cat eat. Is it annoying? Yes. Can we avoid it? Not if we don't want to be subject to a barrage of angry meows. You are a very strange cat. Yes, you are. A very strange cat. Trouble is a very strange kitty. Yes, he is a very strange kitty. And this is how it turns out I spend my life watching a cat eat. Isn't sex the most important part in life? No, I don't think so. Hello, kitty. Sex is obviously necessary in a healthy relationship, in my opinion, and important that the two people in a relationship regularly have sex they both enjoy a lot. But, well, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about sex. Like, most of the time you're spending with your partner, you will not be having sex, right? If most of the time you're spending with your partner, you're having sex, then either you aren't spending that much time with your partner or you're having way too much sex. Like Rachel and I spend a lot of time together. Mm-hmm. If we were to spend most of that time having sex, we'd both be exhausted and very tired of sex, I'm sure. Well, I mean, have as much sex as you want, right? But if it's more than either of you want, then it's too much. Like, you probably do have other things to do besides just have sex. It's also a matter of consciousness. Maybe because Essie is 8 for me, I don't really remember sex particularly. It's like I remember enjoying it a lot yesterday, but that's about as much back as I remember about it. It's not like I remember the specifics of it so much. It's just, just humping happened. I remember what I say. Well, it's also a matter of attentional priority, right? To prioritize sex a lot is to prioritize um, a subjective experience. But subjective experiences are not an absolute value for me. So, obviously everybody everybody enjoys sexual intercourse, but because of my attentional matrix, unless there's a problem, I'm not thinking about it. What do you think of the word postulate? I think it's fine. It's not a word I use, but I think it's a fine word. I would be more likely to use the word posit, which is like postulating without the mathiness. I'm not that mathy, you know. More mathy people might use postulate. Less mathy people like me, we might use posit. I'm not that mathy math. So, today, what I want to discuss with you is the sad state of affairs called Wednesday. It is Wonder Point Wednesday. So Wonder Point values are doubled. That's a big thing. Don't get me wrong. That's huge. But let's look at the release schedule on Crunchyroll for Wednesday. What are we going to learn when we see this? We are going to learn that it's really hardly even any better than Tuesday. And Tuesday is the worst day. All right. So let's go back a week to last. Bullbuster comes out in 5 minutes at 6 a.m. Bullbuster is. It's like I got no enthusiasm for it, but it's not exactly terrible. It's just not really deserving of me, busting an anime nut over, right? You don't want to waste an anime load on some bad anime. I'm giving the disgraced noble lady I rescued a crash course in naughtiness. That's probably my favorite one that's released today. And that's not that great. The only other choices for the day that I watch are 16-bit Sensation Another Layer, which is kind of slow and bugs me with its time travel mechanisms. I don't like the way that I don't like this part of the storyline structure where she goes back in time, she works with this old-fashioned gaming company, then she goes back forward in time to her old job, then she goes back in time again, but it's years later, and she gets a job with the same old gaming company, but now it's upgraded to this new level. It's like, okay, just let her go back in time and have continuity in the past as well. Then there's Cami Robbie God app, which is way better than its rating, but it's hard to watch because it's a little dark. I don't like dark things that make me feel emotions. I try to avoid that as much as possible. Of course, tomorrow, Thursday, that's a whole different story. Thursday begins the 4-day block of goodness called Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in which most of the good shows come out. I've already seen Vinland Saga. Goodbye, Diana Days. Good luck with your days and your Diana. Well, good for you, Diana Days. You just fuck your little hearts out. Don't settle. Okay, we won't. I won't settle. I didn't have to settle. That's why I got to go with Rachel. Bye, Eric XD. Bye, Diana Days XD. I'm gonna XD you back. Reciprocal XD, y'all. Reciprocating XDs. Um, what time is it? 6 in the morning. I'm feeling tired again. I've gotten up early. I've pulled some bong rips. I think it's time to watch a few things and then maybe eat a piece of cheese and uh, and then go back to sleep for a while. I think that's a necessary but insufficient condition to starting the day properly. So for now, I will bid those of you still here the very fondest, warmest, moistest, and tenderest of goodbyes until later today, when I shall again stream with the intent purpose of doing some chores together. Won't that be wonderful? Until then, good night and arrivederci.